Welcome back to Grammar Grade 12. This is Unit 5, Lesson 40, and it's the one that finishes Unit 5. Today we look at the mood of a verb. Not the writer's feelings, but the way a verb signals how the speaker regards what's being said. Is it a plain fact, a command, or something imagined and not yet real? There are 3 moods in all, and the third one trips up even careful writers. So let's slow down and make all 3 clear. Let's get the big picture first. Mood is the quality of a verb that shows how the speaker regards a statement. Think of it as the verb's attitude. There are exactly 3. The indicative mood states a fact or asks a question. The imperative mood gives a command or a request. And the subjunctive mood steps away from fact. It handles wishes and demands and things that are only imagined. Same verbs, but 3 very different attitudes. We'll take them one at a time. Start with the mood you use constantly without thinking, the indicative. The indicative mood either states a fact or asks a question. When I say, "She writes in her journal every night," I'm stating something as a fact. And when I ask, "Did the ferry leave without us?" That's still indicative. A genuine question about the real world counts too. This is the everyday mood. The overwhelming majority of your sentences, spoken or written, are sitting quietly in the indicative. Next is the imperative mood, and it has a personality all its own. The imperative gives a command or makes a request. Close the window before the rain starts. Please email me the final draft. Notice something. Neither sentence names who should act. That's because the subject of an imperative is always the understood you, the person being spoken to. Even though the word you never appears, it's there in the meaning. So whenever a sentence points an instruction straight at the listener, with no stated subject, you're in the imperative mood. Now the tricky one, the subjunctive mood. We'll take it in 2 parts, and this is the first. When you talk about something that is contrary to fact, or you express a wish, English uses a special form, were, for every subject. Listen, if I were you, I'd apologize first. But I'm not you, so it's contrary to fact, and we say were, not was. I wish it were Friday already. A wish, so again, were. This holds for I, he, she, and it, where you'd normally expect was. The signal is simple. When the statement isn't actually true, reach for were. Here's the second half of the subjunctive, and it catches almost everybody. After certain verbs, verbs that demand, request, recommend, or suggest, the verb in the that clause drops to its base form. Watch what happens. The board recommends that she be present. Not she is present, but she be present. I insist that he arrive on time. Not he arrives, but he arrive, with no S. The trigger verbs are ones like insist, ask, recommend, require, and suggest. After them, strip the verb down to its base form and leave it there. Let's turn all of that into a quick check. Ask these in order. 1. Is the verb just stating a plain fact or asking a question? Then it's indicative. 2. Is it an order aimed straight at you with no named subject? Then it's imperative. 3. Does it express a wish or something contrary to fact? Then it's subjunctive, and you'll likely need were. And 4. Does it follow a verb like insist, recommend, or suggest? Then it's subjunctive too, and the verb drops to its base form. Run those 4 questions and no mood can hide. Let's practice. In this first set, I'll give you a sentence and you name the mood: indicative, imperative, or subjunctive. Pause the video and decide before I reveal each answer. Marcus repaired the old clock over the weekend. Is this a fact, a command, or something imagined? It's just telling us what happened, plainly and truly. That makes it indicative. Please silence your phones before the recital. Notice there's no stated subject. It's aimed right at you, asking you to do something. That's the understood you, so this one is imperative. The coach demands that every player be on time. Listen to that verb, be, not is. It follows demands that, and it's dropped to its base form. That's the subjunctive mood. For this set, choose the form the subjunctive actually calls for. Remember, were for wishes and things contrary to fact, and the base form after a demand or a suggestion. Pause and choose before I answer. If she blanked the manager, she'd change the schedule. She isn't actually the manager, so this is contrary to fact. That means we need were, not was. The doctor recommends that he blank more rest. Recommends that is one of our trigger phrases, so the verb drops to its base form. We say get with no S, not gets. I wish the summer blank longer every year. This is a wish, plain and simple, and a wish calls for the subjunctive, so it's were, not was. Let's gather what we've learned. First, the indicative, the plain, everyday mood that states a fact or asks a question. Second, the imperative, a command or request aimed at the understood you, with no subject in sight. And third, the subjunctive, the careful one. Use were for wishes and for anything contrary to fact, and use the base form after verbs like insist, recommend, and suggest. That completes Unit 5, verb tenses, voice, and mood. You now know how verbs move through time, how they shift between active and passive voice, and how they signal mood. Next unit, we turn to subject-verb agreement, making every subject and verb match. I'll see you there.